Hi everybody, welcome back to Sprague Woodturning. So 2 weekends ago I got an extremely large maple burl in. So in this video that's what I'm going to do. It's too large for me to carry to bring into the bandsaw. I don't have the best of backs as it is. And so we're going to round it best we can with a chainsaw. I'll do some coring on it and get it ready for drying. So that's what this video is about. And if you like what you see, please consider subscribing. And yeah, stay tuned. It's going to be a cool one. While we're at it, we might as well do some cherry crotches too. I got some really large ones that I need to process, so I'll throw it in with this video as well. Woo! Okay, so it's the next day. It was just too busy around here with construction and other stuff to carry on filming. So today is a new day, and it's a beautiful day actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this now with the chainsaw, and I'm going to use the scribe, and I've actually sharpened one end of this. So I'll plunge that into the center. This is 9.5 inches. So that'll give me a 19-inch bowl blank. The swing over my lathe is 20 inches, so of course I don't want to cut it at 20 inches because it's going to hit the bed. Even at 19, I'll probably have to still do some trimming because it's not going to be exact. So anyway, I'll scribe it with this, cut it off with a chainsaw, and then that's it. We'll move it inside. There, that's roundish. Okay, so you can see I've got this maple burl mounted on the lathe now. No easy feat. I've gone around with the chainsaw and kind of trimmed away a lot of the stuff that's going to get turned away anyway, to try and just make it more balanced. This is a 20-inch general lathe, and it'll take quite a bit of out of balance weight. I've got my settings down on its lowest setting for torque, and the reason for that, of course, is this has a 4-step pulley. It's variable speed, but if you've got it up on its highest setting, you lose a lot of torque. So low settings will give you a lot more torque, because the further you move away from center, the more mechanical advantage you have, and you can stall the lathe. So this is going to be natural edge. The problem is I can't fit my banjo under the wood because it's too close right now. Like I said, this is going to be all kind of cut away for a natural edge. So once I get enough of this taken away, I'll be able to move the banjo on the lathe bed under the piece, and then come this way and clean it off. And yeah, so we'll have our outside profile, and we'll do some coring with this as well. And I've got a couple of those cherry crotches to do as well. So let's get some turning done. All right, I just got to clean out this area a little bit. You know, I like this profile, but when you're using a captive knife system, so yeah, when you're doing coring, of course, you're married to this profile. So a lot of times I'll turn the large outside bowl, and I won't be so much concerned about this style and more concerned about this, what I want. And then I'll just have to clean out the belly inside a bit to match this outside profile. The cores that come out of here, of course, will all be the same profile, so you don't really have to worry about those. But in this case, you know, it's up to you. Turn the outside profile that you like, and then use the coring to save whatever you can. I can't remember if I showed this on my last roughing out video, but my drive center, what I do is I lock the headstock, move the blank back and forth. That'll make the spur drive dig in deeper. And of course unlock it, tighten it down, and lock the tailstock. That ain't coming out of there. Okay, so I've got this cherry crotch piece mounted up, so you can see the two parts, the two upper parts and the bottom part, and I've attempted to line up the hearts in this fashion like this. There's some cracks in these, so I'm going to cut this probably fairly deep, and I've cut a little bit off the backside here just to try and even things up. And so yeah, if you're ever turning crotch pieces, make sure you line up the hearts. The bowl looks much more balanced when you do it that way. Again, always stand out of the throw of the lathe when you first turn it on to make sure everything's going to be all right, and make sure it won't hit the tool rest. Okay, so I'm going to try and explain this one-way coring system. There is a detailed videos actually on the Oneway website under their media section, so check them out if you're if you're confused. So this is a 20-inch lathe, and these are the knife profiles that you can get from the Oneway coring system. And of course, it's going to depend on the size of your lathe, which knife set you get. So this is a template. It keeps the base, the tool base, far enough away from the chuck that when you put the knife in, you don't go through the bottom of the bowl. And as you can see here, there's about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches that will be left in the base of the big money bowl. The last thing you want to do is to use the wrong cutter and come in and cut through the bottom of the outside bowl, because that's the money bowl, and we don't want to do that. This is set up for the largest bowl that I can actually core. And again, this is my number 4. And what I'll do after this is all locked down, and there is a support that goes in here, and the cutter rides on that support, and you'll see that in the video if you're not familiar with it. So anyway, I'll lock this down, I'll get rid of my gauge block, and then I'll use my number 2 cutter. So that will go in there, and there's our first bowl. And as you can see, there's still lots of meat left in the block itself for the next bowl. So after that's done, then I take the number 3. And again, all these supports are the same. They're all different sizes to go with the knife set. So that will come in, and that will take out the second core, second bowl. And then I'll bring in the number 4, and that will cut out the third bowl. So that means you're going to get 4 bowls from one block. And I don't usually do this on everything. If it's something that's, say, 14 inches in diameter and larger, I'll go for it. If it's a burl and it's smaller than that, then I'll go for it then. But typically, you know, 10 inches is really kind of where I don't want to go below 10 inches as far as a diameter of a bowl is. So anyway, hopefully that you understand that. When I actually do the coring tomorrow, it's getting late today, hopefully you can fully understand it then. I'm going to use my number 3 setup. Here's my spacer. It goes up against the banjo. So we're going for the first bowl here. There we go. It's not going to be very deep, I'll tell you that. I'll lock that down. Again, if you wanted to, you could put a square on your lathe bed and on the jig here, and then square it up. So the number 2 support. When you first start, it's just supported by the post, and as you move your way into the bowl, you flip this around and it follows the bowl end, supporting the cutter all the way. And lock down the support. I've got my lathe on its most powerful torque setting, because you'll need it for this. If you have a lathe that's quite underpowered, you're probably not going to be able to do this. So this is a 2 horsepower motor on this. As always, wear a shield. And if you look at my other roughing video that I did where I was doing some coring, you'll know why you should wear a shield. So check that out. I'll try to put a link at the end of the video. It's fine to leave the cutter in the wood as long as the shavings are clearing from the cutter. Once you get deep in, you'll have to keep pulling the tool out and cleaning off the shavings. All right, so I find you can typically go about 1 inch, and then you should move the guide, not the guide, the support. And put it in there, make sure it's not binding on anything. And then we'll just keep inching this in until we pop this out. Now this is really hard stuff. That's why it seems to be cutting so hard. If you're cutting something like birch, although birches can be quite stringy at times, find the soft maple is good, just like butter, as long as the cutter's sharp. All right, let's try that. You don't want to really force it. If this was a normal bowl blank without all this crotch grain in it, it would probably just pop right out. So we got to keep going until we get down to a smaller diameter. When you're coring it, sorry. There it goes. So there you go. I mean, it's not much of a bowl, little shallow dish. I mean, it does have some figurative grain in it. So yeah, typically I don't even go for that. This is more or less for demonstration purposes. Anyway, I've got a vacuum chuck, or I'll pinch them between centers on the lathe and put a foot on the bottom of them, and that way they can be, this one can be cored out. I'm not concerned about this one because it's going to have the same profile. I'll just have to pinch it between centers and put a foot on it, and that's it. My number 3 knife profile in now. It's got to be close. I really don't want to cut that up. There it is. There you go. Again, I'll turn a foot on the bottom. Just flatten this. Here's your big bowl. And again, I'm not real concerned about a little bit of tear out, as long as you're about a 1/16 of an inch in thickness all the way through, then you know, it should dry without cracking, hopefully. Okay, so we've encountered some issues. So now this burl is big and it's heavy, and I don't feel comfortable coring it. And if you remember, ordinarily we would start in the center and take out our bowls and go like this. The thing is, I don't want to core this without the tailstock in place because I'm worried about this coming out of the chuck and damaging either the bowl, my lathe, or me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in reverse. I'm going to do the number 4 and I'll cut my way in. Then I'll pinch this between centers, put a foot on it, put a tenon on it, and then I'll remount that. And then after that, I'm confident that I've cored bowls without the tailstock that size easily. So yeah, I don't typically get nervous when I do stuff, but this is kind of making me a little nervous. This here was useless. This is so deep that there's going to be an extra inch in the base of this bowl because it's so deep. So I don't even really need that. Okay, wish me luck. Yeah, it's going to be a little rough until that cutter gets buried in there. But it seems to be cutting pretty clean, so I'm pretty happy with that. Woohoo! Success! So that piece that we took out, it's actually 13.5 inches across. But as you can see, this is all end grain. And that's one of the reasons why that was cut so hard. That is a beautiful bowl. So anyway, I got to clean out some of the belly in here. This is pretty thick. I'll have to go down at least another inch in here to make everything this wall thickness. And that one's done. Okay, as you can see, I've already started here a little bit. So this is the core out of the burl. I've turned a tennon on the bottom. It's back in the chuck. I'm using the number three spacer. So we'll take one bowl out of here. And again, this is a really small bowl and I typically wouldn't go for that. So this is just kind of demonstration purposes. So I've got my number 2 knives in. Then we'll move it out and then we'll go for the second core and I'll use the number 3. She's tiny. Yeah, see if she'll pop out. Ooh, look at that. There you go. Right, so we started with 3 and now we have 10. Now, of course, like I said, I usually don't do these just for demonstration purposes. That you can certainly do something with if you wished. That one over there is a little too small, this very top piece. These other ones, certainly for sure. This burl, I mean, this here alone makes it worth coring. Beautiful stuff. And I've anchor sealed the back side of it already. So again, I label what they are and the date. That way I know. So everything will get anchor sealed, an end grain sealer from UC Coatings, inside and out. They'll go in my drying shed for 3 months, and then I'll start running them through my fridge kilns, which I will cover in a video sometime. We're done. If you don't have a coring system, I would strongly recommend getting one. If I didn't have it, this would have been all gone with a gouge, and that's a valuable piece of wood. So let me know what kind of system you're using. I'm kind of curious if you've had any issues with them, how easy they are to use. I've only used the one-way system. I'm happy with it. And yeah, thumbs up, thumbs down. And if you like what you've seen, please consider subscribing. And don't forget the bell. And hopefully we'll see you at the next one.